Hello everyone, welcome to Fearfully Greedy. In today's episode I will go over my rambling or rattling on if a bigger player retailer could compete with naked wines. I went over it a bit on the thesis, but I will touch on some points because I seen this question a bit on Twitter and in some places I saw Tom also ask it. So I will just give you my thoughts. First thing is that for Costco to compete here, it's not that the entire sector of winemaking of wine is not competitive. I think cheap wine production is very competitive in the United States and in other countries, right? It's usually business with very little margins in what is production. It's the way you sell it that is not very competitive. Okay, yes, Costco could just buy this very cheap wine and sell it to you very cheap, but most retailers for the very cheap wine are already doing that. I think the middle range wine is not that competitive. It's here people willing to pay a bit more. It's where they take advantage of these people, especially in the United States. And then we have the high range, the most expensive wines. Those are very competitive again because those modes are from brands that have been building them for 100 years or if not 100 years, and they spent a lot of money marketing, having that brand there, influencers, ambassadors, all that. If we went to the cheap wine, Costco would any day, anytime, would rather subjugate a third party than going to a tiny margin business. He has done this in all their products, right? If there's something they think they can do cheaper than someone else, they will do it. But wine, I don't think they can do it cheaper, the cheapest wine, right? So let's see, could they compete in the middle range? Well, I don't think it's 100% sure that the Costco client base is willing to pay that extra amount of money, so over $10, $15, $20, $25 per a bottle of wine. Do you think it's the same client base that are willing to do that? I'm not 100% sure, right? They are willing to pay for that extra quality, and also they are willing to pay for more soul into the product, for having someone producing it and knowing them. Are they willing to pay for that? Not necessarily sure. Maybe they don't value that. Then in production, so they could start hiring winemakers in very different zones and extension and produce their own wine. But how would they attract the best winemakers? Because winemaking is not easy, right? You need a great winemaker to make a great wine at scale, especially at scale. Also, at that point, will you pay them a high executive salary to stay, like the big dollars? Because they can get paid big dollars in big wineries. So will you? There's not a lot of these people that have over 20 or 25 years of experience moving these volumes, and you need that experience because wine is not a fixed thing. I don't want to compare it to wheat, for example, with for the bread, not the other one, because of course seasonality and climate and all of those things affect those also, but the end result of the land of the crop is mostly the same, right? In wine, it's not. It's completely different every year. It's completely different for every extension of your land, from every one of your vineyards. You have to that completely change just in timing, acidity, alcohol content, the way it has matured and not, and you have to be quick on your feet to the wine you will have to elaborate, right? Also, people have to understand that scale is inversely related to the quality in wine, right? It's easier to make 50,000 of very high quality wine than make 500,000 or 1,000,000 bottles of the same wine. Is much more complicated with scale, which is completely different, like completely inverse in other kinds of food and other kind of products. So you would be needing a very technical person with lots of experience to really deliver that quality at scale, which I said is limited, right? It's limited to get to that quality, because I said all the variables are constantly changing. You cannot make a booklet for your company, like get someone very good, tell you how to make wine, make a booklet, and you just tell your workers how to do it, and in 5 years they will be able to do it. No, you need like someone in the crafts who has done it for many years, who is very good at it. How will you attract him? I find the incentives, which is the most powerful thing, is the most beautiful thing in Naked. Of course, I could be blind for me. I don't know, really liking the idea of Naked. I think it's a very clean design and model, and that's why I'm invested, of course. But the incentives, which is the main thing, it's hard to get the high quality winemakers involved with just a salary. I find it very complicated to do that. Then another completely different thing. There's a lot of data involved in Naked, in the model of Naked. The way that people click and like and comment and follow, of course, and buy, and all that data. How will you replicate that in the brick and mortar? So at this point, I don't think the brick and mortar model can even compete with Naked. So yeah, Costco could make an online website and compete directly with Naked Wines. They would have to almost start from a fresh start. I don't think there are many synergies. So that's why I don't think like Costco is like this crazy competitor if we understand really what Naked is trying. Of course, I could be blindsided, but those are the things I think. Also, people who like and value wine and really appreciate it and are willing to pay a bit more, they want variety. So they want to try a bottle from here and a bottle from there and from this guy and that method and otherwise. So, and they also want that connection with the winemaker, the terroir, the land, all that. How will Costco do that? Okay, replicating the model, but anyone could do that with a big wallet of cash. That's what I said in the thesis. With a big wallet of cash, be willing to burn it for a few years, they can compete. Someone with a bigger wallet and knowing what to focus on could really compete with Naked. But I don't think there are many synergies with the Costco model and the Naked model which they could implement, right? Finally, for a high quality winemaker, working with Costco will just put you in their yoke, and you are already in their yoke if you have a winery and you have a bigger winery that you are selling a lot to middlemen and distributors and wine brokers and all of that. You're already on their yoke, and they are already squeezing you for the margins, for the last cent. And going to Costco, where he will be like 100% of your client, I don't know. And there's one final thing, which is winemakers is kind of similar to cooks. Okay, if we want to make this analogy, they are not the most businessman profile in the world, right? There are a lot of business which you don't do out of love, you do out of for money. Of course, they are in it for the money and they love it, but they are trying to put their love like something that they would do almost for free if everything was paid, and they are trying to align it with their work life. That's very unique. So it's hard to attract these people only with cash and only with money and only with volumes and only with sales and a bigger salary. Most of these winemakers really want their winery and their vineyards and make the best wines possible and keep improving their craft and their enoturism and tastings and all those things. Like getting everything in together, like making something very romantic. In the Costco model, there's nothing on that. Okay, those are my on top of my head thoughts that I was talking with someone this afternoon, and they came to my mind, and I said, well, why not make a video about it? Okay, well, thank you for watching. See you all on the next one. Bye bye.